This is Rob Tebbutt for Boxing News. Delighted to be joined by none other than the tractor bomber himself, Fabio Wardley. Fabio, how
Uh,
you doing?
I'm doing good, thank you, mate. I'm doing good. That one is growing on me. The more and more you say it, it is growing on me. I think I like it. I think I like it. War is the mantra at the moment, but maybe Tractor Bomber comes a bit later.
Yeah, we'll come on to that in a bit, but I can't take full credit for it. I do have, full disclosure. Somebody did tweet me when I compared it. Well, kind of tongue in cheek said that you were the Ipswich Deontay Wilder, and somebody replied tractor bomber underneath. And I thought, yes, you are, of course, a proud man of Ipswich, the tractor boys. You've got them there on your shirt. I like it. Just putting it out there. The tractor bomber for me, I quite like it. We'll stick a pin in it for the future.
We'll pin it. We'll pin it on the board for now because I've never, I've never liked the. There's not been a name I've liked so far, and I've always wanted one to come organically as well. And that seems pretty organic, and I do quite like it. So yeah, we'll pin that there for now. We'll see how we go.
We will see how we go indeed. Right, we are about a minute and a half or so into this interview, I think, which is probably around the same time as your fight this past weekend with Frazer Clarke, a thunderous right hand scoring a first round knockout win. And let's be honest, a lot of people going into the fight were split as they were first time around on the back of that draw in particular, but handle your business in spectacular fashion. You very much did. Yeah, I mean, obviously there wasn't an awful lot to kind of review on. But what can you tell me about that performance, Fabio? That was something.
Yeah, look, I learned. I think it shows how much I learned. And I think it shows how adaptable I am and how much of an IQ I do actually have when it comes to boxing. Now, obviously, don't get me wrong, it wasn't a 12 round technical boxing match where I outboxed the lights out of him and he barely touched me and whatever else. But what it proved is I made the adaptations in the right places at the right time to do the right things. Because in the first fight, I had him hurt, I had him going just like that a number of times, but I wasn't able to get him out of there. I wasn't able to get him finished. I wasn't able to hurt him enough more following that. Because all credit to him, he's a strong, durable guy. He's been through hellish rounds with like the likes of AJ Dubois and all them big boys. So he's been hit 10 times over and really hard. So he can take a punch. So it takes a lot more than one single punch to get rid of him. Um, and I think I proved that I'd learned from the first fight that, okay, I'm not just going to blow you out of there. I need to put this together a little bit smarter, a little bit cuter, come with a little bit more, which I was, again, able to make them adaptations throughout camp and be calm and cool in the moment, pay attention to them, and then get the job done.
Obviously, there's a lot's made about your lack of experience, particularly when compared to Fraser. But going those 12 hard rounds first time around, how much did you take from that going into a rematch? Obviously, a unique situation for yourself in the fact that it's a rematch anyway, but also
Mm.
having 12 rounds of kind of sample data, I suppose, to work through ahead of a rematch. How did you feel in preparation after those 12 rounds?
Yeah, look, I felt great. It was weird actually. I felt better and better as the fight drew closer in terms of the week and fight week. The more film we watched, the more tape we watched, the more we paid attention to things. I was like, oh, I was actually getting through a lot of things were really working. I just wasn't able to put the finishing touches on them properly. I was a bit, I think, especially with the first fight, I think I really got sucked into the occasion, the moment, the fans, the noise, the crowd, the event of it all, wanting it to be what it was on Saturday, that spectacular finish. I'm really trying to force that through instead of allowing it to kind of fall into place naturally. So yeah, I paid attention from what we drilled, what we'd scored, what we'd gone over, and implemented that on the night.
Now, I kind of made a passing joke. Obviously, it's easy to make a passing joke when you're on the other side of a Zoom as opposed to in real life. But about your nose, before we came on here, you do still look like you've been in a fight, despite not really being in one at the weekend. What is the situation with that? Obviously, much was made about it going into the fight. I mean, you can still see there that it looks like maybe a strong gust of wind might open that up. What's the situation with that? Is that something that you're going to have to manage going forward in your career?
Yeah, potentially. Twitter has me in bits all the time about my nose. It's great. Like I'll do something and said, "Oh, Fabio's nose opened up just doing this interview and things like that." Like it has me in hysterics. I do love it. It's a great place. But Look, it's just one of those things. It's just a war wound, and I obviously have got skin like a baby and a bruise like a peach. Unfortunately, that's just how it is. It just hasn't healed over all cutely and nicely, but it is perfectly healed. It's scarred over. I had a plastic surgeon go through it, look at it, stitch it internally, put it all together. He's checked it over multiple times since. I've been through countless rounds of sparring. It hasn't gone once. So it's all back together as best as it can be. Will it never go again? Who knows? Unlikely, probably will. But ultimately, where it's located, bridge of the nose, not a massive issue. It would just drip down my face. It won't obscure my vision at all. And I think another main factor, which always got confused during the fight and now, is that my nose was actually my actual nose and nose structure was never affected. It was never broken, never fractured, harmed. I've always had perfect nasal breathing through my nose. Ever since the fight, before and after, and however. So the actual real, the big bits of it all are perfectly fine. It's just some skin that's a little bit more fragile than the rest, and maybe it will go again, maybe it won't.
Now, one of the people that I wanted to discuss with you is your new promoter, Mr. Frank Warren, who looked, I mean, he seems to get younger and younger every time I see him on camera nowadays. He's walking around with the swagger of a 35-year-old, much less
Mm.
his actual age. And even more so at the weekend, obviously a new heavyweight charge in yourself, looking so good and so spectacular. Frank, obviously the man to be, the place to be at the minute, Queensbury, with regards to the heavyweights, must have been nice, and I'm sure he was very happy with your performance.
Yeah, Uncle Frank's the top guy. I remember when we first kind of had a proper sit down, a meal, a chat, and really got to kind of know each other really. And he sat me down and said, "Look, we're not going to talk any business. I want to get to know you. I want to get to know you as a boxer and kind of and figure out who you are." And I appreciated that, and we had some really good chats. And since then, everything's gone really well. But obviously, this being my official, or Saturday being my official Queensbury debut, um, had to do it properly, had to do it in style, had to make a point, had to make a statement, and I think I did all those things.
I'm sure Frank, being the astute promoter that he is, has discussed with you what could potentially come next. You're kind of in this interesting position now of blowing through Frazer Clarke in the rematch, which you may have expected it. I certainly don't think everybody else watching necessarily did in that fashion. But this kind of puts you in a very interesting position. Where do you feel you're going to go next? Is it going to be? I mean, do you have the British title out right now? Obviously, you have the draw in the middle. Do you have to defend it again to win the British title outright?
From my knowledge, I don't think the draw counts as an official defense, which I think is a bit of bullshit, and I'm
So
not too happy about.
So is that what you want to do? Do you think that that's going to be the next thing? Do you think you'll be making a defense to settle for the British title outright so you
I
can win
don't.
the British title?
I don't think so. No, I don't think it's worth it. I don't think there's anything left. I've cleaned up the domestic division really. There's no one left of any worth of any caliber that would really, I think, want to fight me or would fight me, and that would be worth fighting in terms of monetarily, in terms of status, in terms of a scalp that's good to put on your record or worthy to put on your record, especially with the position that I'm in at the moment. I'm jostling now. I'm shoulders to shoulder with those guys who are fringe level world title challengers. So there's no need for me really to fuss around at British and domestic level anymore when I've already proven myself multiple times. I've defeated multiple British level domestic opponents. So I think it's the right time for me to move forward and crack on and test myself at this new level I've reached.
Okay, great. So this is the exciting part of the interview where we get to ask who it is that you want to fight, Fabio. You mentioned there about kind of being in and amongst fringe level. I've seen Deontay Wilder's name kind of bandied about recently.
Mm,
There are, you've mentioned that I think there's certain fighters kind of where they are for the name, and then there's also, some other good heavyweight. I wouldn't call them prospect contenders like Ajit Kabayel is a name that's also been kind of bandied about. Who do you want? What type of opponent do you want next?
yeah, look, it's who I want is an interesting question because uh, honestly, I don't know. Um, because it's not about, oh, I want to fight you. It's about who's going to set me up to be in the best position. Because we know with the big fight that's happening at the end of the year, and then we know post that about how the belts are going to fragment and setting yourself up for world title eliminators and being in the right position. So it's not necessarily about the person; it's about who's in the right position for me to beat, and then put myself in their place, where I'm next in line to fight for the world title. I'm um I'm now in uncharted territory. Well, to be honest, my whole career I've been in uncharted territories, but but now especially I'm in uncharted territories of vying for a world title. So I think now's the right time to sit with the likes of Frank and my team and stuff who have been and put people in world title positions and had people for world title shots and have a discussion with them about what's the best course of action.
What about fighting Derek Chisora? The winner gets the War nickname until you obviously stopped the tractor bomber.
Yeah, I am still waiting for some sort of call, FaceTime, or anything from Derek to say, "Look, mate, you don't fucking steal my name, all right?" I'm not. I haven't spoken to him. Funnily enough, I did after the show. I did an interview with Delicious TV, which is obviously his thing. But he wasn't the one doing it. It was his other guy. But yeah, that would be an interesting one. I know. I think he's got one. He's got a fight coming up sometime soon, which Frank hinted at the other day. But maybe his last one is to either take the name War to the boxing grave with him, or I take it and it's mine to carry on. We fight out for the name. Maybe it'd be an interesting storyline to put together.
We'll see what happens next with Derek Chisora. Yeah,
Yeah.
another person I wanted to discuss with you. You mentioned there about sitting down with your team, Frank Warren. Also, somebody who's become a little bit more visible recently and doing a much more of a, much more kind of a public job is Michael Offo. Of course, people who know their boxing and on the inside of boxing know him as a very multi-talented man. But among his many tricks of the trade, he's also advising you, managing you, and working with you. Just tell people about his influence in particularly this not late surge in your career. Your whole career has been one big surge, but this late period in your career in particular.
Michael has always been next to me throughout my career. He's had different roles throughout my team and Dill's team and however, but he's hugely experienced in the field of boxing. He's been through it all with Dill, been seen and done it all with Dill, and now he's at a point where he's able to kind of step into the shoes and put the suit on and do the kind of the more fancy side of it, and advise me and work with me and put me in certain positions. And he's doing a fantastic job. It's great to have again experience in this game is so valuable in a variety of areas and for a variety of reasons to know that oh you shouldn't do this because of this and okay this contract doesn't look right because I've seen one like this before and it means this and right you don't want to do this. You don't want to fight this person because of that, or you don't want to piss off this person because of that. And just understanding the game, because if we're being very plain and honest, there's so many snakes and ladders in boxing, so many, sometimes hoops to jump through and doing things the right way, and just managing everyone in a nice and comfortable fashion, as not to take away from yourself at all. So he's been instrumental in helping me kind of navigate all of that and get through it pretty well. I don't think I've pissed off too many people in boxing. I think I'm known as quite a nice guy, and most people like me, so I'm doing all right. But yeah, he's been fantastic. He's very much standing now in very much more of a primary managerial role next to me, side by side with a lot of stuff I do, which is fantastic. So yeah, it's been great to have him.
And I just want to talk about your training team. Now, first of all, I want to talk about part of your training team, the one and only Robert Hodgins, of course, who has been with you from the very, very beginning, from the white collar days onwards. He was the first person in the ring. Took him, I'm sure he won't mind me saying, it took him a little while to get between the ropes, but he was the first person in the ring on the night. I'm sure I'll get him later on about that. But just
Good.
describe to me the journey that you've been on with Rob. You are so, you are incredibly close with him. You have such a unique relationship. And I mean, it is some story. I mean, we don't want to keep harping on about the white collar to, world ranked heavyweight now, very much so. Just to describe the journey that you're continuing on with Robert.
Yeah, look, so much so much credit needs to be given to him. it's hard, almost painful for those words to leave my mouth because of the relationship we have. I don't really express any sort of love, care, and affection to him outwardly. But I honestly, internally, I owe everything and more to him. As probably everyone will know by now, that the first time I ever laced up a pair of gloves, it was him tying them up. So he's been there side by side through everything, and I mean everything, and every bump, every bruise, every journey, every issue, every problem, every setback. Um, all of it, to the days where we were traveling up to like Manchester to get 4 rounds with just a heavyweight, so we could just get some rounds in and not making any money off it, not getting paid, and and I wasn't making any money off boxing really because I was fighting small halls, so I was trying to scrap together enough money just to get petrol up there and get back and whatever else. And he's never said no to me in that sense, in the sense of, oh, can you come with me to sparring for this, or can we do this, and can we do this? And he'll always make sure he can be there. And I can't thank him enough for all of that. He's been instrumental in my career, and obviously even with the addition of Ben Davison as well. I think again more credit needs to go to him because boxing is a massively egotistical sport, and he could have quite easily said, "No, I don't wish to share you with another coach, or anything like that," which I know a lot of coaches would have, to be honest. But I think that just proves that he cares about me more than himself, and that how he looks and the perspective, and how he's viewed as a coach, and however that he's willing to one, share the plaudits and share the responsibility of taking me forward. And obviously he's still very much there and a primary figure, but it takes a lot of courage and just lack of attitude, and just to be a very, no, this is a good idea for you and for us, because ultimately I've always believed that I'm learning every day in the gym and every day, and I can get better, and I need to be around better people, and I need to learn. But if I can learn, then why can't he? Has been my same thought process. So to bring him around Ben, more experienced, now when we're stepping up to world level and things like that, someone who's been seen and done it, works ideally for the pair of us.
And just on that, well said by the way, but just on that, on Ben, obviously a couple of weeks ago, Ben was, public enemy number one, following Anthony Joshua
Mm.
lost to Daniel Dubois. Obviously been around, been around Ben for a long time, and indeed boxing gyms. When there's a high profile defeat in the gym, it's not always the nicest place to be sometimes, or it can be that way. And certainly with the criticism of Ben Davison following the loss of Anthony Joshua to Daniel Dubois, you were very resolute and came out, chest out and defended Ben. Must feel nice. I'm sure Ben won't have, necessarily needed you to do that, but did it all the same. But I'm sure it's nice for you to kind of shove some of that dissent, I guess, back down some of their throats with a fantastic win.
Yeah, look, we're both very aware that boxing's a very fickle sport. You can be on top of the mountain one day and you can be at the bottom of the pit the next day. All because of one thing, all because of the slightest moment, the slightest misstep, slightest mishap. Everything else you've done is entirely forgotten, and it's all focused on that one mistake and that one thing that went wrong. And yeah, like you said, I had a very strong stance on that. I had very strong opinions, and I felt it was very wrong. Um, so I had a lot to say, and I almost look. Ben Davison doesn't need me to carry his name and mantra and legacy or whatever else, his reputation, but I did feel a certain level of responsibility of, okay, cool. Well, if you think that, I'll show you I'll show you what he's really about, how hard he works in the gym, how much he cares about his fighters, how much work he puts in, how much detail goes into all the work that not just me, but all the fighters in the gym do. I'll show that to you, and I'll show you how well I can execute it on the night.
Just final one from me, Fabio. I do appreciate your time. I know you're a big deal nowadays, a far cry from the white collar, the humble white
You
collar
know,
fighter I
you
encountered
know.
many, many years ago. But anyway, you sat there, you're sitting there now with your beloved Ipswich Town proudly on your chest, the tractor bomber coming soon. But you have boxed in Saudi for your last couple of fights. It seems as though that is the place for heavyweight boxing, but I do know that there'll be an adoring army of Wardley fans from Ipswich who will be, eagerly anticipating a homecoming of sorts at some point, potentially Portman Road. What can you say? I mean, is it going to be Saudi for the foreseeable? Does it kind of depend? I mean, what can you tell those tractor boy fans? Oh, oh, the tractor bomber, keeping it.
Look, there has been, and always has been, ongoing conversations between me, the club. It's a bit more, things are a little bit more solid now that I've got a promotional backing, obviously with Frank and Queensberry and stuff, who are able to kind of facilitate and put all the nuts and bolts of it together. Um, and especially after that win, it's a stronger conversation now. It's a stronger question. So it is something we're exploring. We have been though for ages, for years. It's just timing has always been the big thing with that. Right opponent, right time of the season for the team as well and club, because we know how much goes into obviously a stadium fight and mess up the pitch and all of that. So I think that's right now is the biggest hurdle is figuring a time. And then once we have a time, we can look at an opponent, and then we can fuss with all the other details further down the line and stuff. So it's on the cards. It's being discussed, has always been discussed. But after last night and obviously Sunday with Queensberry, it's nudged us a few percent in the right direction. So edging closer and closer.
Okay, there we have it. Okay, well, Fabio Wardley, thank you very much for jumping on and talking for, I mean, we've had a good chat there about not really necessarily the fight because it wasn't a tremendous amount of time, obviously, to discuss. So once again, congratulations on that very, very impressive first round stoppage win. When can we expect to see you back in the ring?
Early next year, I think. Take the rest of the year off, see how the division falls out, see who does what. And then we make a plan. We put a plan together, have some meetings over the next few weeks with Frank and the team and stuff. We sit down and we discuss and we make a plan and we crack on for a big 2025.
The fighters these days, yeah, the box less than around, and now you're going to go on holiday and you come back next
Ah,
year. It's just, yeah, pampered, pampered. The small hall, the white collar Fabio Wardley would be disgusted.
he would, but he's long gone now. So it's the tractor bomber now, so he does things differently.
There we go. The tractor bomber is here to stay. Okay, Fabio Wardley, as always, real pleasure. Thanks very much for speaking to Boxing News. Wish you all the best in the future and look forward to catching up with you soon.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.